What is up, Ascenders? My name is Bryan Henry, and I'm the founder of the Ascend Academy, an online platform, school, and community that is uniting and activating light workers. If you believe you might be one of the souls that have come to this planet at this time to serve the awakening and the ascension of our planetary collective consciousness, we may be looking for you. To learn more about the Academy and to initiate your activation, head on over to academy.togetherweascend.com.
Welcome to your awakening journey. Today's destinations include higher consciousness and actualized potential. If all ascenders could now please be seated in a comfortable meditative posture, we are about to ascend. You are now arriving at your host, Bryan Henry.
Ascenders, in this episode, I am speaking to Avalina Maline, who is a gifted intuitive channel who acts as an invitation into the frequencies of trust, love, surrender, and joy. In this episode, her and I get into a conversation in which we touch on topics like what it means to surrender and the significance that this has in our awakening process, how we can embody our higher selves and our true nature, which you're about to find out is one of joy. You'll also find out about the role that our emotions play in our process, how to better understand and process them so that we can align ourselves with this frequency of joy. This conversation will act as a catalyst for you in your process of remembrance of who and what you really are. And I'm really looking forward to you hearing it. So with that being said, what do you say we jump in? Ascenders, this is Awaken with Avalina Maline. Our guest today is an intuitive channel and an awakened multidimensional consciousness who is supporting others in their awakening process. Through her gifts and understanding of quantum energy and emotional alchemy, she helps us accelerate embodiment and the transformation of our consciousness. Avalina Maline emphasizes and encourages embracing the fullness of the human experience as a path to liberation and expansion. She guides both individuals and groups in alchemizing the physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual bodies in order to embody the power of their divine sovereignty and align to greater states of peace, joy, love, and abundance. Avalina is dedicated to being in the greatest service to all, and her work is serving our collective's expansion into unity consciousness. Her perception of the world and unconventional ways of thinking invites us to see beyond our limitations and recognize that there's so much more to us and our experience than we are led to believe. We were fortunate enough to have Avalina join us at the Together We Ascend Summit last year. I've also been fortunate enough to get to know her a little bit in a group experience that we're both a part of. And in both of these settings, Avalina, hearing you share and just your beingness, there's this invitation that I feel into the frequency of joy, as we kind of were talking about before we hit record. Joy, trust, surrender, these are kind of the feelings, the energies that I feel you emanating and inviting us into.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm really looking forward to now having you on the show to pay the same invitation to those that listen in. Welcome to Awaken.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for such a beautiful introduction. And yes, as we got together, I'm feeling the waves of joy, and it's actually all of our true nature to be in that energy. It's who we are. It's just whether we allow ourselves to access it, right? So yeah, I'm looking forward to our exploration here. Very happy to be here and with your audience, and just to feel the energy and to allow ourselves to open our hearts, expand in whatever ways we are capable of doing in this now moment.
Even in just that little share there, that snippet, you're already kind of tapping into a lot of what I feel called to explore with you.
Mm-hmm.
But before that, there's a question that I've been starting pretty much all episodes off on. And like I tell all my guests, interpret this however you'd like.
Okay.
Who are you and why are you here?
Who am I? Well, I would say I'm source. I am a fractal of light from source that we all emanate from, and that we all share in that same light. And I'm here to remind everyone of that, of who they are, and that our experience here is a reflection of who we're being in the moment. And it is all here to remind us, it is all here as a mirror to remind us of who we really are, who that light is within each of us. And if we allow our experiences here to show us that, then magic happens, and we realize our internal eternal selves within our human body while we're here, while we're in physical form. And that's the gift right now of being here, is the opportunities, this timeline that we're in, this whole ascension period that we're in is really the biggest and greatest opportunity that we've ever had in any form that we've ever incarnated anywhere in the universe. This is where it's at, right here. And we have the opportunity to be our God selves in a human body. And it's never quite been done like it's, the opportunity is here now for us. So, we have to choose, right? And that opportunity is here. So just really assisting everyone and reminding them of that joy and love is always there in every moment.
I can really feel from you this unwavering belief that this really is our true nature, joy and well-being. I'm willing to guess that wasn't always the case, and and that there's often a journey that leads up to believing that. How have you personally come to believe that our true nature is one of joy?
Yeah, well, I've definitely had my experience of 3D reality and many, many years of it. And for me, it was more of, that resonance of knowing that, like ever since I was younger, I remember just as a child looking up at the sky and knowing that I understood the universe, and seeing the adults and just feeling that there was so much more. And, you go through the programming, the conditioning, and at some point, whatever it is that triggers you to wake up. And for me, it was actually lucid dreaming. And through many of those experiences of going out of body and realizing that I'm not my human form, and being able to experience myself outside of form, accessing incredible states of bliss, even in the astral realm, and just the knowingness. It's like when you connect with your higher self and you bring that energy in, there's a knowing there where there's just no question. There's not even a question to arise anymore. There's no space for question because it's a state of being. And when you start to feel that, there's no disputing it. There's no, the mind can't come in and doubt it, because it's just, it's a state of being. It's an isness. I'm laughing at myself at my words, and because it sounds so cliche, but it's a feeling, and your feelings are true, right? There's nothing more true than our feeling. Our thoughts are, if we're going to identify with the thoughts, we get carried away, but the feeling is our true sense of where our guidance is coming from. Where our higher self, where our source is trying to show us the way, is through feeling at this time in our human vessel. That's why the emotional body is so important, to be able to navigate your emotions and your feelings. Because when you start to access that and you can distinguish between your emotions and your feelings, and you realize what you're feeling is true. I mean, the body doesn't lie, right? The body has so much to reveal to you of who you are. And so, through feeling, and it brings you that knowingness. So it's trusting. It's trusting and getting to that state where you know what you're feeling, and then that's your truth. That's your compass.
Mm-hmm. how do we bring ourselves to access this feeling of knowingness?
Well, through practice, through really practice of observing your yourself, your mental body, your perceptions. Usually we get caught up in a mental pattern, and that's when we get caught up in emotions, right? Because our emotions are linked to the mind. Our emotions are really just the mind's interpretation of what we're feeling, right? Because our emotional body is the bridge, right, from our mind, right? So we have our physical body, our emotional body, our mental body. The emotional body is the bridge. So when we have thoughts, as a human, we can experience our thoughts. We use our thoughts to create, right? We're creating. So if we didn't have an emotional body, we wouldn't be able to experience our thought. We wouldn't have a sense of the thoughts. We actually can experience our thoughts through our emotional body because we have a felt sense interpretation of the thought. But what we do is we get caught up in that pattern and we start telling ourselves stories about the sensations, and then we get caught in a loop. So when we can drop the story and drop the mental, the addiction of labeling and judging, then we get into the feeling. And then it's in that feeling that all that it wants to be met. And we've all heard this where you meet it with presence, right? You meet the feeling, you meet the sensation with presence. And that's when you're in neutrality. When you don't have the story and you're just observing it, it becomes quite simple, actually. And you realize the simplicity of how you can actually dissolve the patterns, the emotional patterns in your field. And once you do that and you can feel and you understand that the feelings they're just sensations. They can't hurt you. They're not even who you are, right? There's no point in even identifying with them. They're just passing through you. Mm-hmm. Then whenever an emotion comes, it's just like, oh, okay, this will pass. And it's just, it doesn't stick, so you have this flow of sensation just be able to move through you. And then you can determine what it is you're feeling. Then when I'm walking into this situation, what it feels like. When I walk into this room, what the energy feels like, because we've lost touch with how to feel. And to me, on my journey, the one of the first things I learned was to feel. Like there is nothing more important than feeling. And when you get that aspect down, that's when things really start to move. When you have your emotional body is clear, then you start looking at, the beliefs you're holding and how those limitations, and they get subtler and subtler and subtler, right? Because the mental body is more subtle than the emotional body. And then you have the celestial, the causal, the astral, and so on. So there's many ways to look inward, right? And so using your emotions is really a foundation for anyone. We all have to go through that stage. We all have to get to a point where we understand our emotions and we use them as a tool to show us what we're holding on to. Mm-hmm.
Well, first, I'm loving the bridge, the connection that you're drawing between our inner knowing and feeling. There's a sentence there that I really want to better understand, and it's correct me if I don't have this right. But you said the emotions is was it the interpretation, our mind's interpretation of what we're feeling?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'd love to hear you differentiate between the two, emotions and feeling.
Okay, so an emotion, is an emotion, right? It's a movement. So when we have a sense of a feeling of something, we sense something in our body, we immediately, our mind is going to start to identify with that sensation. It's going to label it. It's going to judge it. It may have a story with it, right? So then now the mind has an identity with the physical sensation. And so we interpret that. And then when we interpret that, we create more sensation. Mm-hmm. So it creates a looping pattern, right? Because we can only experience our thought through a feeling, through an emotion. So a feeling, is just a sense in the body. It's the body's senses of something. So you can feel things and not have an emotion. You can feel when you step out in the sun and the sun's beating on your face. You can feel when there's a presence behind you or somebody walks in the room. It's a felt sense. It's a feeling. There's no mental story to it. There's no mental identification with it. It's just a feeling. But we get caught in that loop of emotion and we don't process the emotion. We keep repeating the emotion over and over. We keep living through it because we get a feeling, say, for example, anger, and anger can feel very hot in the body. It's going to produce a lot of heat. And then we're like, oh, like there's, I'm feeling this doesn't feel good. And we start telling ourselves a story about, oh, why am I angry? Or why am I feeling this? He said, she said, all these other things start kicking in. And then we perpetuate it. And so now we're having the thoughts, and now we're going to have felt some sensation based on those thoughts because we're starting to identify with this thought, this story pattern. Whereas if we just stay in our center and we let all that, we let the stories go, we let the judgments go, we let the labels go, and we just drop and feel what's in the body. It's like, oh, well, that's not so bad, right? It's just a feeling. It's not, there's nothing. If I just sit with it and be present with it, you're meeting it with that energy of presence. You're meeting it with that awareness. You're meeting it with love because you're meeting it with neutrality because you're not caught up in the drama and the spin. And then it moves because energy is going to move. Wherever we put our attention to, the energy moves. And so naturally that's going to shift maybe to other parts of the body or, it's and you just, whatever arises. And then over time that gets less and less and less. So whatever that situation was, the next time that occurs, it doesn't have it doesn't stick, right? There's nothing to trigger you because you're clear and it just blows right through you, right? I hope I explained that.
We're going to keep going. We're going to keep it, but we're not going to overcomplicate it either.
Yeah.
Would you say that this practice of observing from neutrality and presence is sufficient for the healing of our emotional body, the processing of those emotions?
Yes. You just like you said, you can keep it simple. There's so many tools out there, right? There's so many ways of doing things, but it all boils down to us feeling what we're feeling in our body and taking responsibility to it, right? Like the ability to respond. Okay, I'm feeling something. What is my response going to be? Am I going to own this? Am I going to own what I'm feeling? Or am I going to try to project it to my outward reality? Because we know the outward reality is just a reflection of what's internal. Everything. Your entire existence in this 3D complex is a mirror of what's inside. So as soon as you take responsibility for whatever you're feeling, it has nothing to do with your situation, your circumstance, then that's when things move. That's when you're like, oh, okay, I'm the creator of my reality. What's present? What's showing up here? What's happening in my field? What's bothering me? What's keeping me from my center? If I am not in my center, if I am not, in my internal state of peace, love, and joy, then there's something coming to presence that wants to be witnessed, that wants to be met. Doesn't want to be pushed away, it doesn't want to be get rid of. It just wants to be met. It just wants to be witnessed because ultimately we all put it there out of love for ourselves. All these densities and patterns, we put it there to protect ourselves because we thought we needed protection because we didn't feel safe. We put it there out of love for ourselves. So ultimately all of it is made of love. There's nothing that can hurt us, nothing that can harm us. It was all put there by ourselves out of love to protect ourselves. And our jobs now is to meet that, dissolve that, so we can remember who we really are.
That piece of taking responsibility, I think already kind of just brings it home for me. Bringing together both the witnessing as the neutral observer, and as you've shared, how that in itself can cause for or allow for the energy to shift, not even cause, just allow for it to shift. And from that place, being able to take responsibility and respond rather than react from there.
Yeah. Yeah, you're taking back your power. Otherwise, you're just giving your power away. You're giving your sovereignty away. You're giving your power away to the external projection that you yourself are creating. So ultimately, you're falling victim to yourself. You're falling victim to your own projection. So when you realize it, you realize the power that you have. You realize the ultimate creator that you are. And we're so powerful. We're so powerful that we're actually creating this. It's quite incredible.
Mm-hmm. I believe you. and I think that perspective of I'm a powerful creator of my reality can sometimes be hard to reach for, and it can feel like a reaching for it. It can be a conceptual knowing. I always conceptually know that.
Yes, that's very true. Yeah. It has to be a state of being, and it not from the mind.
How do you embody that state of being?
We get there. Okay, we get there by listening, right? Really like establishing that connection with your higher self, right? Because there's degrees of embodiment, right? We have our soul, we have our higher self, our oversoul, all the way up to our highest aspects of source. And there's no limits to the potential right now of what we can embody. So it's a journey that is quite expansive that we have right now. So really establishing that connection and establishing your own sense of guidance, your own sense of listening to yourself. And we can cultivate our higher selves actually listening to us, right? Because it's always speaking to us. Our higher self is always speaking to us. And it's speaking to you from your true nature. It's speaking to you from that love, light, and joy. It's going to say, this is what you need to do, right? And it's because you're already that which you're seeking, right? So the higher self doesn't say, oh, you should do this or you should do that. It's rather when you feel yourself come out of alignment, that's your higher self saying, hey, whatever's happening right now is not in alignment with your true nature, right? So it becomes more of a correcting your perception, right? So when you perceive reality in a way that's distorted, you're pulling yourself out of alignment with your higher self, and we interpret that feeling as suffering because that doesn't feel good, right? So your higher self is always speaking to you. Through this energy, and it's using your circumstances to show you. So anytime you experience something that is disturbing your state of being, know that it's your higher self pointing to you that there's something off in some way. And then the practice becomes really simple. It's pausing and asking your higher self, well, show me where my perception is off. And that's how you hone the voice of truth. It's simply acknowledging that your perception is off anytime there's anything that's causing any type of suffering, no matter how small, and then that desire to be shown, your higher self is going to bring it. So it's making use of the circumstances. It's making use of the challenging experiences and turning them into a catalyst. Right, because they're all here to show us, and most of us we're going through life. We're completely unaware of our circumstances and unaware of the opportunities that are right there. But our life, you could almost say your life is like your higher self. It's literally showing you, where you're feeling separate from yourself. So yeah, once you start to really accept that life is happening for you, not to you, it starts to become your greatest teacher, right? So it's asking with really genuine curiosity, and you start to see everything unfolding and right in front of you, and you're there to be witnessed. So yeah, it's, you can overcome lifetimes of suffering when you decide to face and learn from what's right in front of you. And because that's going to point you to the truth. It's just simple. If we really distill it all down. I mean, I went through the many years on my journey of trying to find tools and working with different people. And I realized at one point, I was like, oh my God, it's all been right here in front of me. It's all been so simple. I've been making it way too complicated. And it's very, very simple. some of the most profound learning things are always simple.
We still overcomplicate things.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just want to point out that this is the second episode in a row that quote, life is happening for you.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It was kind of the focal point of, or definitely a major theme in the last one. So whenever
That's
something
awesome.
is resurfacing and just coming back up and again and again, I usually take that as a notice to pay attention.
Yeah. Because you're creating everything. Every circumstance is every, molecule, every vision that you see is your creation.
Yeah. And the way that living through that lens of like, it's all happening for me and it's all trying to show me something about myself or where I can be in greater alignment with my highest perspective.
Yeah.
There's just it opens up so much.
You can relax. It's like, oh, okay, let me just sit back then and enjoy this life, allow myself to go through the challenges and hold joy at the same time. Right. I don't have to, get so caught up in the drama of taking myself so seriously and the challenges that are in front of me and know that, whatever happens is always for my highest good. Mm-hmm. Whether how I navigate it, it doesn't matter. The further I get away from source, the greater the suffering, which is perfect because now it's serving as my catalyst to get me back where I needed to go. So whether we're taking our time getting there, it's, there's no race, there's no rush, but it's this timeline, it's happening very fast. And a lot of us are, we're on this fast track, whether we want to be or not. Yeah. So it can be intense. So, when we shift our perspective, because our perspective is everything, right? How we're going to perceive what we're, how are we going to interpret what we're experiencing determines how we're going to experience the experience. One person can experience the same thing with great joy and the other person can have it with great suffering.
Mm-hmm. It reminds me of another quote. Everything will be okay when you're okay with everything.
Yeah, that's so perfect.
Yeah.
Simple, right? It's always simple.
I'm glad you're already offering this invitation into the energy of relaxation and just kind of like taking it easy. Because one of the other things that I think I'm ready to introduce to the mix that I want to hear you share about is a topic that, ironically, when I first heard you share about it, I was a bit resistant. And we're going to find out why. Because the topic is surrender.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So surrender. Yeah. It's something that, gets, I think most of the listeners of the show by now would have heard this being, this term being used in the context of awakening and expanding our sense of self-awareness. Yeah. But, even just that term, there's this connotation, I think, of kind of giving up, I think, right? How the word is at least traditionally used. It has that kind of sense of, or, this idea of surrender is to kind of give up. So I'm willing to guess that it's not just that. So I know that this is something you speak to, so I'd love to hear you to share. What does it mean to surrender? And why? Yeah.
And I remind myself this all the time, because once you think you've surrendered, like completely surrendered, there's always more surrendering. And it's true. We hear surrender and we think it's, that we've been defeated, right? Or that we've lost. But really it's letting go. It's letting go of control. And it can be the most beautiful shift and constant shift that it offers you when you let go of that concept of really being at war with yourself, and it's really being at war with your mind. It's the war of fear. It's the war of control. And when we surrender, we just stop resisting, right? Because we know resistance is the suffering. It's not what is that's the suffering. It's the energy of resisting that causes the suffering. and when we surrender, we allow for the ease, right? We actually end up doing less. Like life becomes easier. Things start to flow. Things start to unfold magically, almost effortlessly. When we're not surrendering, we're putting a lot of effort into something. We're putting a lot of energy into something. We're trying to make something happen. We're fighting, we're pushing, right? It's exhausting, right? So if we stop trying so hard, right? Because when we're trying, we're not in the energy of joy. We're not in that energy of relaxation. You let go, you put your intention out, you trust, right? And you believe the outcome is going to unfold perfectly for you. When you do that, you give space for the universe to actually make it happen, right? Mm-hmm. So it's letting go of the doubt, the fear, and the worry, right? I think there was a quote I heard that, worrying is using your imagination to create something you don't want, which is so true. It's almost laughable, right? So, so it's letting go of the belief that we can't have the things that we desire. Yeah. Right. So we trust in ourselves, and when we trust, we trust in the world, we're sending out that energy that we're ready to receive. And it's very actually similar to the energy of forgiveness, and it's also very similar to the energy of letting go of judgment, right? You could say that forgiveness is the opposite of judgment. And what is forgiveness? Forgiveness is very similar to surrender in that you're letting go of the expectations of what you wanted, and you're letting that moment of whatever's arising in the moment, the path that it's taking you to get there. You're trying to create something, and maybe it's going this way or that way, and you trust because maybe there's something even more magical that you hadn't even thought of, before. So you're stepping out of the limits, right? So, with forgiveness, and it's the same thing, right? We've all heard about forgiving. But we've heard all the quotes around forgiveness. But when we really forgive and we really drop into a deep forgiveness, we realize that, there's nothing to forgive, right? It just drops away altogether. And you're simply incapable of holding a grudge against anyone or anything. And you see that everyone is just where they are on their path, and that no matter what anyone else does, it isn't a reflection on you, and it doesn't affect who you are in any way. And then you're capable of seeing yourself in the same way. How could I not forgive or love myself simply because of the level of consciousness that I was at during this circumstance or that circumstance, that was just my level of awareness at the time. So how could that be wrong? How could that be wrong? So, if we fully forgive ourselves, we ascend to that energy of love. And it's very similar to surrender, where we're just surrendering to that moment, allowing how the universe is presenting itself to us. When we can allow ourselves to be in that energy of love, and we start to allow that to be our guiding barometer for our whole life. And then you become that frequency of love, and you lose the ability to judge, and you see the world that way, and you elevate your frequency to that love or above. And then you're literally making waves in the collective consciousness then. So, forgiveness, the same as surrender. It's the path to opening your heart, right? It's the path to, the heart energy, of letting go of judgment and separation. So because if we have judgments around other people, if we see anyone as separate from us, our heart closes to that perception, right? When we have that, we're holding that perception, our heart closes, right? And that doesn't feel good, right? And yet our heart is able to remain open when we have that perfect forgiveness of nothing to forgiveness, and we see everything as innocent. Of course, it doesn't mean we don't try to alleviate suffering or injustices. It's just we meet it from that place of love and no judgment, and then we allow that love to move through us. So yeah, it's again, it's so simple when we can just let go of however what is being presented for us in the moment. And it's so freeing. It's literally, that's That's what freedom is. When we surrender, when we let go, we forgive the world, we forgive the moment, we forgive the circumstance, when we surrender to whatever is present, it's so freeing. It's like total freedom. There's no worry, there's no control. And then you enjoy what's happening. Like you actually enjoy the path. You enjoy it. Like when I, for example, when I moved, my last move, I showed up, I didn't know where I was going to live. I was staying at an Airbnb. I was clueless, right? I had a certain time frame, and, did I allow the pressure? No, I didn't. I just completely let go of any worry, any doubt, not even a thread. And it was probably the deepest level of surrendering I had ever done. And literally I had a place to show up in less than 24 hours, a home way more than I expected. And I, was signed a lease and everything within like 24 hours. And I wasn't even planning on looking for a place, but that's how things flow when you surrender. You hold the intention, you take the action you need, and you give it to the universe, and you allow your higher self to bring it. Mm-hmm. It's a deep, deep level of trust, trusting in yourself, because you're, again, that powerful, and it can happen.
I see you already drawing the connection between surrender and just the allowing of the unfolding of our desires, because that desire piece was definitely something I want to kind of even dive deeper into, because it's easy for me to see how surrender can feel liberating and easy and relaxing. The piece that I feel can be a little bit of a block to that, or where the resistance lies in myself, and I'm so many others, is but if I surrender, I'm not going to get what I want. Yeah. And here are all the things that I want, and these are all the things I think I need to do to get there. So how do we reconcile this? Like, how would you reconcile the practice of surrender with
balance, the balancing of what you want to create for yourself?
And desire,
yeah. Well, it stems from the fact that we are challenged, right, is that we have a hard time perceiving that everything is for our highest and best good, that everything is actually what we're experiencing is good for us. And so we have this tendency to think that we know what's best for us, so we resist reality instead of trusting in life. So if we hold the assumption that everything is working for us, we refer to that as acceptance, right? So you're no longer seeking change of the moment, so you're receptive to what the moment is asking for you. So attachments, desires, those are kind of what make us suffer, but it's not that we don't have an intention, right? It's just we don't hold on to that intention. We don't hold on to it in a way of attachment. We don't hold on to it in a way of how we want it, the outcome of it to be. If that desire doesn't happen, then how are we going to let that affect us? Because ultimately, every desire we have ultimately stems from the desire to know ourselves. So whether you're an artist or you're creating this or you're creating that, all of it is a path. It's a desire that comes up in you because you have a desire to know yourself. So there's a deeper desire that comes from. So it's trusting in that deeper desire and allowing your life to show you what you need and not what you want, right? Because we know desires cannot be fulfilled. They can only be multiplied, right? So it's actually the satisfying of desires that creates more desires, right? The more you have it, the more you want, the more you need. So desiring for an outcome, it can only let you down, right? It's if you have an outcome and it's like this beneficial, this amazing experience, then you hold on to it, right? You get attached to it. So then you're only going to be let down from it. A desire cannot make you happy. It can only perpetuate an unhappiness, right? It only ever seems to have an outcome that made you happy in the past because you simply misinterpreted the reason for your happiness, right? So happiness actually comes from the collapsing of the desire. not the fulfillment of it. Happiness is the state of pure being, right? It just like Buddha says, it's emptiness, right? So, if you think back to a moment where you can remember where you were extremely happy, extremely satisfied, maybe it was spending time with loved ones, or you were on a vacation, right? You can see that, what you remember that you were happy simply because you didn't want anything in that moment. You were fulfilled in that moment, right? You got the thing that you wanted. And so the desire for it collapsed. And it was the collapsing of that desire that you became totally satisfied with the shape of that present moment that took place. So, there's nothing, there's nothing wrong with saying, oh, I'm going to give myself this experience. I want to have this experience. I'm going to see if this experience actually fulfills me in the end. And you'll find that no matter how great the outcome is, you're almost always going to want there's going to be another want afterwards, right? So the satisfaction of desires, really leads to disappointment. So in a sense, it's almost like it never happened, right? The next time you're in that space of wanting or desire, it's like, well, what all those other things that made me so happy, what was the point of that? They're gone. Why? How come I can't sustain that? Right? I want to sustain it. Right? So it's like that itch that never gets scratched. Right? So we want to, not, having something we want to create as an intention, but we are experiencing it without clinging to it, or experiencing it without having an attachment to the outcome. So we're not resisting what's occurring. We're not resisting how it's going to unfold. We're letting the universe let it unfold however way it wants to. So, one of the reasons why we're here, and incarnated as a soul, is to work out these patterns and to work out these like unmet desires, right? And the way until they keep playing out, until our only desire is for source itself. And and to come to the realization that there's truly only one desire in the universe, which is to know ourselves. And this desire is what gave birth to the entire universe. It's actually the only desire you have. It is the only desire you have. And so our desire is the catalyst, that's leading us to a final realization that the only thing that can satisfy me is knowledge of myself. So because desire is a bridge that we have to cross, it's not that we should shun our desires, but that we should actually expand them and to desire something greater than, bodily pleasures or fleeting experiences, to desire something eternal and everlasting, and to keep tuning up our desire until it becomes so great and so wide that only, the supreme reality itself can satisfy it. and that's the journey, right? That's the journey that we're on, all of us. So it's realizing that. And once you dive into knowing that the only true thing you desire is to embody your higher self, which is when you're in that state of pure love, joy in every experience that you do, then there's nothing left to desire. You just get to enjoy everything. Everything becomes enjoyable because you can hold that energy and still witness an experience happening in your external reality, but it's not going to move you because you're here. You know who you are. You feel that vibration, and that's truth. That's the truth of who you are. So everything is pointing us back to that, even our desires.
Is focusing on anything otherwise is it serving as a distraction from aligning with that one true desire?
If you allow it to be, it can be. But if you're following your heart, if you're following what your heart is, saying to you, then those desires for a certain situation is going to ultimately teach you something.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So in a sense, it's creating opportunities for us to learn, to expand, to open our hearts, to come back home, to remember. Right. So the desires, again, can also be a tool. Okay. So I desire to create this in my reality. And so why am I doing that? What is the main purpose behind my desire? Knowing that, where is this desire stemming from? Is it coming from my ego, or is it coming from my heart? Because if it's coming from my heart, then it's always going to serve. And even if it comes from your ego, it's going to be a learning lesson. There's never a wrong choice. It's a matter of how aware are you going to be? How are you going to allow yourself to perceive what you're choosing? Because we're constantly choosing. So holding that perception of, where is this coming from? Where are my desires stemming from? Because we're all here on a path. We're all creating something. So there are all these desires to create things are all stemming you back to source. They're all taking you back home.
Could the tuning into the knowingness of the heart ever point us in the direction of wanting to create something tangible?
Creating something like, you mean tuning into the heart and creating something physical?
So again, correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems like what you're sharing is that, if we really tune in, what we'll find is that what we really want to know, what we really desire is to know ourselves. That's what we truly desire. And that may, we may come to think that we want this or that. But really what it's rooted in is that core desire. So I guess what I'm asking is this inspiration to create something in the world.
Mm-hmm.
Could that be in alignment with this knowing of our higher self? Is that?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, because that's one of the reasons we're here, right? We're here to express ourselves and to create things in the 3D reality. And we're creating for ourselves and each other to bring us all back home, right? Mm-hmm. So whatever we're creating, we're serving ourselves, we're serving others. If it's an inspiration, if it's a true inspiration, creating in the physical is because right now we're all in physical form and we're all trying to bring our higher selves into our body. We're all trying to remember to bring our God selves into our physical form. So however that looks like, whatever form that takes is perfect if it's in the vibration of, coming from your inspiration, which inspiration means coming from spirit, right? Coming from your higher self.
Mm-hmm.
It's moving through you, right? It's moving through you. So that expression is a way of sharing yourself, right? You're sharing the vibration of whatever it is you want to share, whatever your creation is. And that's how we share love. That's how we share the vibration with each other. It's how we wake each other up.
Yeah. That feels to me more of a pure intention than trying to make something happen.
Yeah.
I want to put a little bit of context to this because this is exactly what I was referring to when I described the resistance in me that I was being called to just bring some awareness to when this message of surrender came up. Again, I it's quite easy to see how surrender and liberation and surrender and even inner peace kind of goes hand in hand. If I surrender and just trust as it is, when I practice that, there is this sense of relief in the body and in the being. And then there's this pursuit. Admittedly, here's the vision, and I'm going to go for it. When you said, if we're trying, we're not in joy. I kind of get that. I kind of get that if we're trying to make something happen in this thought that, or in this belief that having that, fulfilling that will make me feel better, then we are impeding our joy in the now moment.
Yeah.
But then there's this part of me that says, but I like having these intentions and these goals that I set myself after. I enjoy that experience, and it still doesn't feel like there's this nice mesh between trust and aligning with that.
Yeah. Well, what I'm hearing in that is it's also letting go of the rigidity of what you want to create. So when we're efforting, we really want this, we want to make this happen. Well, what if the universe is sort of like you're getting pushed back, right? It's not actually happening, right? You're trying to create something that's not, the flow is just not there, right? So what does that tell you? Okay, so let me just take a step back. Where is the flow, right? Maybe what I'm trying to create is I've got the right intention, but what if there's something greater here? And I'm so focused on this that I'm missing all of this, right? I'm missing a bigger spectrum. So it's allowing the universe to show you and to flow with the river rather than trying to force it. Because what you want to create, maybe there could be something greater for it in you, greater there that you can't even conceive of. What if you can't even conceive of that right now? What if your brain can't hold that? But if we focus and we want something, we try to create it and it's not working, then it's time to step back. It's time to step back and let things shift. Doesn't mean you have to let go of it completely, but just let me step back and see, what else needs to happen here. Maybe there's a change here that's going to, all of a sudden there's going to be this expansion in whatever I'm creating that I wasn't allowing room for it because I was here. I was so here. So it's giving yourself the freedom in your creations. It's like having the way we have to create now. Like before, the way we'd create, it's almost like if you had a painting and you'd have a canvas, right? And there's a border and you're like, okay, so this is the frame. I'm going to put, I'm going to balance out the painting. And I'm going to, because I remember taking art classes and it's like, okay, you have everything balanced out, right? But now it's like, you just start painting and there is no border to the canvas. You just start painting and then you step back and you go, okay, my creation's done. Let me just put the border around here. This is the painting. This is the creation. Right. So it's allowing there has to be more freedom in the creation. You have to let your higher self and universe show you. And that's surrendering to however letting it unfold, however it wants to unfold, rather than trying to control it. Yeah. Because that's going to give you more satisfaction, way more satisfaction, way beyond than you can imagine. Because we know, as we're talking about desires, if you created that the way you wanted to, and then it would be like, oh, okay, yeah, I created that. Okay. Do I feel the sense of, immaculate joy, peace, and love from it? Maybe for a moment, but inevitably there's going to be something else that's going to stir up in you you're going to want to create something else because you're searching for that eternal peace, joy, and love. And so it's always, if we're attached to that creation, it's never going to fulfill us. It's never going to fulfill us. It's the eternal state of being that is what we're searching for.
I'm hearing the difference between creating from pure inspiration and creating with an attachment to a particular outcome. Is that a fair sum? Yeah. No attachment to what it's going to look like, how it's going to show up. Yeah. Does having a vision ever have a place then?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, we create with our imagination. So, but it's the same thing, having a vision and letting it go. Maybe that vision is going to change. Maybe you needed that vision to take you to this certain place so you could, meet these people or discover this. So you could create something else. And really that was just a stepping stone. So it's not holding on to those visions, not, having a vision, but, sort of having it and being like, okay, I'm going to hold that vision, hold that intention. And that's going to be in my background. That's going to be here, but it's not going to run me. It's not going to dictate me. It's not going to control me. It's having that loose, you're holding it, but you're not attached to it. And if it falls away, that's no big deal because something more amazing is going to come along. And we hold on to it. We don't allow space for something new to come in. When we hold on to something we have to create, your higher self could be like, oh my God, we've been waiting for you to, get this message and go into this whole new chapter of your life, but you're holding on to this one.
Yeah.
And maybe it's time to move on to something else.
And that's keeping us distracted from the knowing.
Yeah.
To drop through.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just like when you see a person in a relationship and they're like, oh, I really want another relationship or someone like this. It's, where I can have this open and beautiful relationship, but they're still in the old one. They're still hanging on. It's like, well, you don't have space. You're not giving the universe room to bring someone else new in. So you have to take that step first, right? You have to take the step on that invisible staircase, right? And just allow I forgot what that's called, but where the steps just appear, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. There's a visual of like where you're the moving staircases. There's a name for it. And as you walk, the stairs appear.
Yeah.
And I can't recall the name of the staircase, but it's similar to that. You have to trust.
Trust. Yeah.
And that's the surrendering. Yeah. You have to trust.
I'm going to really just nitpick here.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, first, I actually also want to mention that another message that's really coming through as you share is, prioritizing the feeling and the emotion, the frequency, right? When I brought up the topic of the vision and holding that, I think even more important than holding on to the picture that we have in our head is the practice of aligning ourselves with what we want to feel, that frequency of joy.
Yeah.
So yeah, I thought it was important to kind of mention that as well. I'm gonna nitpick. I'm totally on board with this perspective of. I wrote in my journal the other day, let the universe take the lead.
Oh, awesome. Yeah.
And why that felt right for me at the time was because I felt a sense of relief in writing that. And I kind of use that as a little bit of a North Star, right? When something feels, let's say joyous, or alive, those are kind of my okay, that's something you want to be paying attention to. So when I wrote that, let the universe take the lead, I felt relief, and I'm like, okay, so it's an alignment to play in this perspective a little bit, at least right now. I still consider that there's a time and a place for I'm the creator of my reality and I get to choose. And those two things kind of seem to me like contrary. They're two different perspectives, and to hold them both at once, the mind has trouble with that. Okay. So again, to just be really clear, it's I think what we've been really describing, and it's the letting the universe take the lead, right? Is there ever a time and place for, but I'm the one creator being, and that means I get to choose what I create?
You do. Both are true. They're not actually exclusive of each other. So you do choose, right? And your higher, it may not be in alignment with your higher self. Right. So we have the free will of choosing when we're choosing our own path, but ultimately we are our higher selves. Right. And our choosing, and this is as far as being in a human body, we have ego also. So the ultimate, and what you were saying about the feeling about it is true. When we feel, when you made that statement, you felt it because it was true. And when we feel that peace, love, and joy, it's because it's true. It's in alignment with what our higher self believes.
Mm-hmm.
Our higher self believes, our higher selves, our channel to source knows that to be true. And that's why it feels good. So whenever we have thoughts that feel good, whenever our self-talk or any thoughts that we're having, if they feel good, it's because they're in alignment with our higher self. Mm-hmm. When they don't feel good, it's obviously a sign that we're not in alignment with our higher self. So creating from a sense of, yes, I have free choice. There, to an extent, you do, but it's like, how long do you want to play in that reality? How long do you want to play in? And there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, we came here for that, and there's nothing wrong with not ascending. There's nothing wrong with not embodying your higher self in this lifetime. We didn't all come here to do that. Some of us came here just to, I just want a 3D reality. I just want to experience this, and there's totally fine with that. Our soul, each soul's path came in here with their own purpose. Mm-hmm. Most of us came in to embody our higher selves. So yes, you have a choice. You're always choosing, and there's no right or wrong way. It's not like you're going to be judged if you make a different choice, right? Because who's judging? Nobody's judging. Your higher self certainly isn't going to judge, right? And often, sometimes you may just get pulled out, right? You may move on to a different experience. So there's no right or wrong way to do it, and yeah, you do have free will. And it's using the feeling to be your navigational tool into what feels in alignment with truth for me, because that truth is always what feels good in your heart. Mm-hmm. I hope I answered your question. It was a little different parts to that question.
Yeah, there was definitely a lot there that landed, and certainly aligns with my perspectives and beliefs. I want to ask, is embodying your higher self and aligning with joy synonymous? Can we say that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the more you embody, the more joy you feel, because ultimately you're raising your frequency to that energy of love and joy, which is your true nature. And it's really about adapting the nervous system mm-hmm. to handle that light, to handle that amount of light that comes in from your higher self. And your natural state is joy, love, like these frequencies they're not something you attain. They're actually part of your essence. They're how you were made. So they're a natural part of you.
I feel like we've come up with all these different puzzle pieces that fit together for a beautiful picture, and I'm like zooming out and I'm seeing the beautiful picture coming together. I think what will just kind of tie it all together in an amazing way is if we came up with a step-by-step process there, using all these pieces that we've talked about. So the question is, okay, so let's say, embodying your higher self and aligning with joy and aligning with our true nature, they're all one of the same thing. I believe you.
Yeah.
How do we do so?
Well, there's different, depending on where you are on your journey, but there's so many tools, but, allowing yourself to use your feelings, right? To use your feelings to be your guidance, and really allowing yourself to be present, taking the responsibility. So working with your emotions is because the first step to really allowing yourself to be clear and allowing yourself to discern what should I do next on my journey? What, is having a clear emotional body, understanding the difference there. So I would say, first and foremost is really, you really have to take ownership of your emotions first and foremost. that's a step no one can skip. And that alone is gonna bring you so much peace and joy, because when your emotional body is not volatile, it doesn't mean you don't feel. It just means they pass through you quicker. You don't hold on to them. So that alone is going to bring you more joy. So when we get clear on emotions, we let go of the drama, right? The drama falls away in our life and things become more easy. We allow them. And basically we're just allowing things to be more easy for ourselves. So we're allowing the higher self to come in. We're allowing the higher self to be our guidance. And that is, one of the, you could actually take each tool, even listening to the body, and allowing that to take you so far on your journey. There's no one way up the mountain. But listening, getting in touch with your emotional body, listening to your higher self, listening to your own guidance, listening to what feels right for you, and watching your perception, watching where your desires are coming from, watching where you're holding on to attachments, watching where you're allowing your suffering to be from external circumstances when it's really coming up for you to address it. It's coming up for a reason. No matter how it shows up, it's coming up for you because your higher self is showing you this is something that's in your field that wants to be met. So just meeting everything. We can really just distill it down and meet everything with every moment. There is so much opportunity in every moment. I mean, you could be washing dishes or cooking something or taking a walk. There is not a single moment that doesn't go by where you could have a major shift or expansion. Letting your the desires, right, fuel into the one desire to know yourself and taking the opportunity. There's so much opportunity. It's immense. I mean, I can't even grasp the opportunity that's here right now for us to embody this just incredible amounts of energy of our higher self and create a world that's beyond our imagination. So really just taking ownership of your choices, of everything, of every moment. It's basically boils down to stepping into your sovereignty, right? Which is what we're all remembering. So, yeah. It's hard to put that in a nutshell. It's like putting the whole spiritual journey in a nutshell. It's like, I don't know how to do that.
I think you did a fantastic job of doing so. And here's the real test. Well, here's my real test. I'm going to do my best to sum it up myself. And then you can let me know if I missed anything. I'm hearing bring love and acceptance to your experience and to what you're feeling. Allowing for our emotions to pass through us, clearing our emotional body through that practice of simple awareness. I feel that's a big message that's been coming through, just like allowing for that process to take place rather than like wrestling, trying, because it's the resistance that creates the suffering, the experience of suffering. And so it's through allowing that we realign ourselves with our true nature, which is one of joy. Did I miss anything?
No, it's perfect. As I was listening to you, one of the things that was coming through is, and to remind all of us, right, is that, it's not personal, right? All the suffering, all the things, it's not personal. Our higher selves we're perfect. We're perfect, love, light, and joy. So everything that we're experiencing, it's not a reflection of who we are. It's just a reflection of what we came here to let go of. We all chose a different body. We chose different things to overcome. So it's not taking it personally. Is another way to shift our perspective and not letting us get caught up in the drama of our lives. Yeah, but beautiful. Love it.
Thank you for bringing through all this profound wisdom. I feel my resistance being let go of. Yeah. I think a big part of that for me is reconciling, trusting the universe and knowing that I am deserving of, worthy of, all that I desire, and also trusting that my concept of what I desire may be distorted, and what is here available to me, what the universe has in store for us is greater than we might even imagine. So
yeah,
let the universe take the lead.
Yeah, perfect. I love that you said that. It's like the perfect synopsis of everything, right?
We got one more fun thing to wrap up on. Ready for the ascending round, Avalina?
What is this? Know what this is?
You're about to find out.
Okay.
The ascending round is a series of quick fire, quick answer questions.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah, they're some of my favorites, and then we save it for the end for this.
Okay.
And then the last one is like the grand finale question.
Okay.
You ready?
I'm ready.
No. We'll start simple. What book have you read that comes closest to being a must-read?
Ooh. I haven't read a lot of books lately. There was one I read years ago that was very good called The Marriage of Spirit. I think it was by Leslie Temple Thurston.
Cool. I haven't heard of it.
Yeah.
What one new practice, perspective, or lesson have you integrated or have you been integrating in the past 6 months that has had the greatest impact on your experience?
Ooh. I've been experimenting with different breaths. So that has been extremely impactful for me. I've done breath work over the years. I've done a lot of breath work, but different mudras, different types of breaths have been profound in shifting energy in my body. Yeah.
Amazing. Some of the listeners to the show might know that I'm a big proponent of breathwork.
Yeah.
I've been going pretty deep with it. There's actually a community out here. It's so cool. A friend of mine, he's a facilitator of a method that he downloaded and came through it. But then he's also taught a bunch of different facilitators in this method. It's called Elemental Rhythm. And I've been to a few of these types of sessions. And the last one I went to, I think I cried like 5 times with the amount of release and healing that took place. So
it's huge.
I
love breathwork. I mean, I wouldn't say I'm addicted to breath work, but if there's one thing to be addicted to, breath work would probably be one of the best things. But yeah, I absolutely love it. There's not a day that goes by that I'm not doing breath work.
Beautiful. I think I'm going to have to ask you later about some of the specific practices that you've been exploring with. Okay. Yeah. But sure. To those listening, breath work of some kind. All breath work is good. Yeah. Just breathe. Okay. So we're going to pick up, what does it mean to ascend? If I could distill it down to one sentence, I would say, it's bringing your God self into your physical body. So I would call it an ascend, not an ascend. Then your next question is, how do we ascend? Well, through a lot of the discussion that we've had, how could I make that into one sentence? As I said that, I got breath as I was breathing. There's so many things that want to come through with that. I don't know how to put that in one sentence. There's so much. I would just say then allowing yourself to be aware of, being mindful
as much as you can throughout your moments. If that would to be a thread to carry out through your day, is to always watch what you're choosing. Always watching what you're choosing.
Wow. Amazing way of distilling it, in my opinion.
Yeah, because everything, it's a choice, right? Everything's a choice. Every moment's a choice. Where are you going to put your awareness is a choice. How are you going to perceive this as a choice? What's coming up in your field? Are you going to choose to look at it or not? Are you going to choose to react from that energy? Are you going to choose to be in the stillness?
Wow.
Yeah.
Wait, one last grand finale question. It's my favorite one on the show. Ready?
Mm-hmm.
Avalina, you just realized the power to telepathically communicate to all of humanity. What do you say?
The first thing that came to me was just that remember that you are love. That you are love, that is your natural state of being. And allowing yourself to remember that, to let go of the drama, let go of the attachments, breathe, and be free. We're all here to be free in this timeline. And that possibility is there for every one of us, every single one of us. And it's really just a state of feeling. And if we allow it, it's there. It's just allowing our true nature to come through. It's asking.
I almost don't want to talk.
Yeah, I know. It's like wordless, right? Like as soon as it dropped in, I was just like, it's like, what, I got to put words to this? It's like, it's like source just, it's like, wow. It's like incredible.
I think you did an incredible job of translating those frequencies.
It's funny that you say that, because I'm not typically one with that's great with words. So I tend to fumble when it comes to language. So
no, I wouldn't have guessed what all of the profound wisdom that you've shared with us today. So with that being said, I want to thank you for being the translator of love and these frequencies that's been coming through into these messages that I know are going to serve so many that tune in for this, tune into this. And I also want to thank you for being the invitation into trust, joy, and surrender, as I've shared before, and for your service to humanity.
Well, thank you. And likewise, the feeling is completely mutual. And I'm so grateful to be here and share this space. It was quite beautiful and very enjoyable.
I'm glad you felt that way.
I did, yeah.
We will definitely include the links to your website and social media and all that in the show notes to the episode. But is there anything in particular that you want to put out there and share an invitation into?
You mean as far as my offerings, or well, I just finished a series that's coming to a completion, and I am doing sessions right now, but I'll be traveling soon. But when I return, I'll be doing a series of what's coming through is interesting. Is going to be on astral, using our tools we have all these tools that we do in our waking state, but then we have, we're asleep a lot of the time. And so transferring a lot of the tools for spiritual growth and evolution into the dream state and astral realm. And I have quite a bit of experience with lucid dreaming ever since I was young. It's one of the things that catapulted me into waking up. So I've learned quite a bit in lucid dreaming and astral traveling. And there's a lot of things that want to be shared. So it will be in that. I don't know how the dates for it yet, but that's kind of like the topic of what I'll be introducing next, which is totally different than what I've been doing, but it'll be more fun, I guess. But that's what wants to come through. So
it's kind of crazy to think that we didn't touch on any of that.
I know.
Conversation. Podcast number 2.
Yeah. Well, it makes sense, right? There's this whole other aspect of us that when we're sleeping that we can use to evolve. Yeah. And so why not use that time and dream state to help ourselves evolve more spiritually?
Well, for my own curiosity, is this, at least the way that you're framing it, is this work that is going to be done in the dreams that we're already having at sleep, or are you also
both
including inducing?
Yeah.
And do you teach that tech, like a technique?
Yeah, we will be exploring a lot of different things. One of the things that I did when I first woke up is I was avidly lucid dreaming a lot and had done so my whole life. And I did this exercise to go out, do an astral projection, from a waking state. And I went out of body, and that was one of the things that catapulted me in my awakening. So there's many things there's many layers to the astral realm. It's quite a large dimension. And we have many different types of dreams. We have subconscious dreams. We have, lucid dreams where we're dealing with our conscious. We have learning dreams. So there's it's a whole massive topic of how we can access our information from our higher selves and let go and process things during the astral realm and use it as any tool that we do even in a waking state. So it'll be fun and interesting.
A live experience, or is it something that and
it'll be like a live series that people can sign up for, and we'll be on a group call together, and there'll be assignment. I'm not sure exactly how it's going to unfold, but it'll be more participation than just showing up for a class.
Okay. And is there a start date?
Probably it'll be in July.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I also am going to thank you for putting out awareness around this area, because I'm fascinated by it. I've dabbled, but nothing too deep. So
it's fascinating. It's fascinating when you get really, when you get efficient in navigating the astral realm, it can be quite amazing. You have amazing experiences, but it's shifting those experiences into the physical, into the conscious waking state. So it'll be a very fun exploration.
Yeah. And I think to anyone listening, this might be a really great way to step into this type of exploration. Yeah. Avalina, thank you again so much for this amazing conversation and for joining me on the show. I'm looking forward to putting this one out there.
All right. Thank you so much.
Ascenders, that is going to be it for my conversation with Avalina Maline. I trust that it was able to support you in embodying your true nature and aligning with the frequency of joy, which is one of the same thing, because if there was any message that was just coming through so strongly for me during this conversation, it was this. Your true nature is one of love and joy, and it's in surrendering to the guidance, the intelligence of the universe, and letting go of our limiting concepts, the stories that we tell ourselves, that we create space for this. So thank you to all of you that have been doing this work of embodying your true nature, embodying joy, and in doing so, supporting this collective in being so as well. Ascenders, before we go, If this episode has served you, I'd love to hear from you. Head on over to YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever it is that you're listening to this to, and leave me a comment and a review. I'd love to know what you thought about the show. This really helps the show and the content in getting out to more people, assisting more in their process. And on that note, if there's anyone in your life that you feel would benefit from listening to this episode, I encourage you to share them the link to this episode and assist them in their process too. And lastly, Ascenders, I gotta put the invitation out one more time. The Ascend Academy is uniting and activating Awaken leaders. We're coming together, we're learning from each other, we're co-creating some magical and powerful experiences with one another, and it's just been a whole lot of fun. I'd love to have you be a part of this and get to experience this for yourself, because there's not much I can say that can speak to the potency and just how powerful it is being a part of these experiences that we've been having with the other activated members. If you're feeling the resonance, you're hearing the call, I'm going to encourage you to answer, because that's always for a reason. You could head on over to academy.togetherweascend.com to join the Ascenders community and perhaps become our newest activated member. Ascenders, that's going to be it for this episode of Awaken. I want to thank you for being here with us on this planet at this time, in this moment of our ascension. Until next time, keep ascending.